I'd built my biggest accounts from scratch for 4 years, and my boss just handed them to his nephew like I was invisible. Weeks later, the same client he stole from me reached out to me privately for a weird reason. But before we get to that phone call, you need to understand the meeting. It was a Tuesday. I remember the smell of stale coffee and industrial-grade carpet cleaner in conference room B, 10 a.m. Frank, my boss, called the team huddle. That was just me, Jenny, my one work friend, and now, him, Kyle. Frank was all teeth. That fake, bright white veneer smile he used when he was about to screw someone over. Sarah, Jenny, Kyle. Glad we're all here, he said way too loud. Big day. Kyle's been with us a month now, he's seen the ropes. I think he's ready to really drive. I just nodded, sipping my lukewarm coffee. I was thinking about my rent check due on the 1st. Today was the 28th. Kyle was 23. He had that soft, unlined face of someone who had never had to worry about a rent check in his life. He wore a suit that probably cost more than my 2010 Honda Civic. He was looking at his phone, a tiny, bored smirk on his face, not even pretending to pay attention. He was Director of Strategic Initiatives, a title so meaningless it was almost an insult. So, Frank said, leaning back in his chair, which squeaked in protest. To give Kyle the exposure he needs, we're realigning some accounts. My stomach didn't drop. It just evaporated. I felt cold. My hand tightened on my coffee mug. Kyle, you'll be taking lead on Kessler Manufacturing. And Apex Dynamics. I didn't gasp. I didn't yell. I just stopped breathing. The stale coffee taste in my mouth turned to battery acid. Kessler and Apex. My accounts. Not the company's accounts. I'd landed Kessler 4 years ago when they were a tiny startup in a garage. I'd spent 6 months cold calling them, building a relationship, convincing them to leave their old provider. I'd taken Mark, their logistics manager, to 3 different terrible barbecue lunches before he'd finally caved. Apex was my first big win. The one that proved I could do this job. Together they were 60% of my commissions. They were, and I'm not exaggerating, the only reason I could pay my bills and eat. Sarah, you'll be transitioning your contacts to him, Frank said, finally looking at me. His eyes were flat. He knew exactly what he was doing. Make sure he has everything he needs to succeed. We're all one team here. I just looked at him. I tasted metal. Frank, I said. My voice sounded flat. Distant. Those accounts, they're complex. They have custom solutions. Kyle finally looked up from his phone. I'm a fast learner. He gave me a little smirk. I'm sure I'll manage. Frank beamed. That's the spirit. Now, Sarah, what will you be working on? He slid a piece of paper across the table. A list of 200 cold leads. Small business bakeries and flower shops. The commission on all of them combined wouldn't equal 1 month of Kessler. Most of them wouldn't even have a loading dock. This wasn't a realignment. This was an execution. Jenny was staring at her notepad, her face pale. She wouldn't look at me. He knew. I just stood up. My hands were numb. Great, I said. I'll forward the files. I walked back to my desk. My screen blurred. I sat down, stood up and sat down again. My heart was a cold, hard knot in my chest. I had no idea how much worse it was about to get. Because Kyle wasn't just Frank's nephew. He was the CEO's godson. I knew he was connected. You don't get a director title at 23 when your only prior job was camp counselor. But the CEO's godson? He was untouchable. I was the opposite of untouchable. I was disposable. My apartment in the city was a tiny studio. $1,450 a month. My car insurance was $120. My student loan payment was $300. My last commission check before this meeting was $1,900. After taxes. You do the math. I was living on the edge always. Those big accounts were my buffer. They were my, I can eat something other than pasta money. They were my, what if my car breaks down security. Now they were gone. I did what you're supposed to do. I went to HR. Brenda, our HR rep, had that permanent, strained smile and an office full of dying plants. She listened. She nodded. She steepled her fingers. Well, Sarah, she said after I laid it all out. These kinds of reorgs are always tough. It's not a reorg, Brenda, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. It's my entire portfolio. It's my livelihood. And it was given to someone with zero experience. This feels punitive. Oh, punitive is a very strong word, she said, her smile tightening. We value all our employees. And Frank is empowered to assign accounts as he sees fit. It's important for senior reps like you to mentor and provide opportunities. I just stared at her. He's the CEO's godson, isn't he? Her smile didn't just fade. Shattered. The mask was gone. Her eyes went cold. Frank's decisions are final, Sarah. This conversation is, frankly, it's bordering on insubordinate. You should be careful about making accusations you can't prove. Is there anything else? The door was closed. Locked. Barricaded. I walked back to my desk in a daze. Frank saw me come from the HR hallway. Of course he did. He called me into his office 5 minutes later. Sarah, I'm disappointed, he said, not looking up from his computer. I heard you went to HR. That's not being a team player. I just stood there. My blood was roaring in my ears. You know, I was looking at your other accounts, he said, tapping his mouse. These flower shops. I'm not sure you're focused enough. I'm going to take those off your plate too. Give them to Jenny. We really need you to focus on a smooth, successful transition for Kyle. He took my last crumbs. He was daring me to quit. That's when I knew. This wasn't just giving his nephew a boost. This was a plan. They wanted me gone. If I quit, I couldn't get unemployment. If I stayed, I'd make $0. They were building a paper trail to fire me for non-performance. I went back to my desk. I looked at my bank account. $812.50. I couldn't win. I was completely and totally trapped. I spent the rest of the day in a fog trying to work those stupid cold leads. I made 20 calls. 15 went to voicemail. 3 were no longer in business. 2 hung up on me. I was sitting there listening to the dial tone when Jenny came over. She put a sad-looking muffin on my desk. I'm so sorry, Sarah, she whispered. He told me if I didn't take the flower shop leads he's a monster. It's okay, Jen, I said. It's not your fault. What are you going to do? She asked. I have no idea, I whispered back. They thought I was just another sales rep. They thought I was replaceable. They thought I'd just roll over and die. But they didn't know one thing. They didn't know what I knew about Kessler Manufacturing. They didn't know why Kessler signed with me in the first place. Let me explain. When I landed Kessler Manufacturing 4 years ago, they were a mess. They made high-precision parts for a dozen different industries. Their logistics were chaotic. They were using a big-name competitor, but they were furious. Their problem was specific. It was last-mile visibility. The old company could tell them when a shipment left a warehouse. They could tell them when it got to a city. But they had no idea where it was on the delivery truck. Or if it had been signed for. Kessler's clients were on tight manufacturing schedules. If a part was 2 hours late, an entire assembly line shut down. It was costing them millions. Our company, Midwest Logistics, had the same crap software. It didn't solve their problem. I remember my first meeting with Mark. He'd looked at our demo and almost laughed. This is the same junk I have now, he'd said. Get out. I went back to Frank. I told him we needed a custom solution. He actually laughed. A custom solution? For a company with $20,000 in shipping? Sarah, don't be ridiculous. Just promise him a discount. I knew a discount wouldn't work. Mark didn't care about a 10% cut. He cared about his assembly lines. So, I made one. A solution. I'm not a coder. Not really. But I'm good with Excel. And I know how to Google. I spent a weekend. It was, I think, a rainy Saturday in November. I was in my old, tiny apartment. I bought a 6-pack of beer and a textbook on Excel VBA and data APIs. I taught myself how to pull data from our system's backend API. It was a horrible, clunky, undocumented system. It took me 6 hours just to find the authentication key. I built an Excel dashboard. A simple, ugly-as-sin spreadsheet. But it worked. It updated every 5 minutes. It showed Mark, my contact at Kessler, exactly where every single truck was. It sent him an automatic email the second a package was signed for. I built a custom reporting wrapper on top of our company's garbage tech. I took it to Mark the next Monday. I was so nervous I spilled coffee on my shirt in the lobby. I opened my laptop. Mark, I said, Don't say anything. Just look. I showed him the dashboard. I showed him his one test shipment, moving in real time across a map. Tess stared. He didn't speak for a full minute. He leaned in so close his nose almost touched the screen. How? He said. How are you doing this? I built a custom dashboard, I said. He looked at me. Then he looked at the spreadsheet. Then he looked back at me. He wasn't smiling. He was serious. How much? He asked. Same price as your old provider, I said, my voice shaking. Just, with me. He stuck out his hand. You've got a deal. That spreadsheet was why Mark signed. It was why he stayed. It was why he trusted me. I never told Frank how I did it. I just told him I solved Kessler's problem. He laughed. I remember it. Wow, Sarah. A spreadsheet. Impressive. He had no idea. That spreadsheet was my secret. It was my intellectual property. I'd built it on my own time on my personal laptop. I never, ever saved it to the company server. I ran it from my machine every day. Kyle wouldn't even know where to find the API key. He probably thought logistics was just booking a truck and hoping for the best. So, back to the present. I'm at my desk. I'm being managed out. My leads are gone. My accounts are gone. My phone rings. It's not my desk phone. It's my personal cell. I look at the number. Mark from Kessler. My heart hammered. I thought, this is it. He's calling to say goodbye. To say Kyle is great. I let it ring one more time. I picked it up. I walked to the stairwell. Sarah. Hey Mark. What's up? I tried to sound casual. Sarah. This is a weird question. There was the weird reason. This Kyle kid, he said. He sounded tired. He sent us a new tracking link. It's just a link to the main Midwest portal. It's useless. I was silent. And he said your old dashboard, your spreadsheet, is decommissioned. He said it was legacy tech. His words. Yeah, I said. I can't access that system anymore, Mark. I heard him sigh. A deep, frustrated, I'm losing money sigh. My assembly line in Wichita is dark, Sarah. Right now. Because I don't know where a shipment of ball bearings is. Kyle promised me it would be there. He's a disaster. I looked down the stairwell. I was 10 floors up. I felt nothing. Sarah, he said. Are you there? I'm here, Mark, I said. What did he say? When you told him the line was down. Mark gave a bitter laugh. He told me to circle back on Monday. And then he sent me an emoji. A thumbs up emoji. My line is down and he sent me a tiny yellow thumb. I looked at my $812 bank account. I thought about Brenda's cold, dead eyes. I thought about Frank tapping his mouse, taking my last crumbs. I made a decision. Mark, I said. My voice suddenly wasn't shaking. It was cold. It was clear. I need to make a call. Can I call you back in an hour? Sure, Sarah. What's? I hung up. The call I made wasn't to Mark. It was to an employment lawyer. I found one online. Contracts and employment law. I paid $200 I didn't have for a 30-minute video consultation. I sat in my car in the parking garage. I showed her my non-compete. She read it. Silently. For 5 minutes. She said, this is sloppy. It was written by an amateur. Probably Frank's brother-in-law. He pointed to a clause. It prevents you from soliciting clients while employed by Midwest. So, I said. So, she smiled. If you were fired, or if you quit, and a client reached out to you on their own, that's a different conversation. They'd have to prove solicitation, which is hard. Especially since you've got a documented history with this client. He's trying to fire me, I said. He's building a case. Good, she said. Let him. Document everything. Every email. Every conversation. Frank taking your accounts? Write it down. Itcher blowing you off? Write it down. Date. Time. Who is there? Create a paper trail of malice, I call it. I felt a spark. The first one in weeks. One more thing, I said. That spreadsheet, the dashboard. I built it on my own time. On my personal laptop. Is it mine? Her smile got wider. is a very interesting question. Did you use a company laptop? A company email? Any company resources? No, I said. My personal laptop. My home internet. My brain. Then it's intellectual property in a gray area. And I'd bet my retainer that Midwest's lawyers are as sloppy as their contract writers. They have no IP assignment clause in your employment agreement. I just checked. So it's yours until they prove it isn't. And that would be expensive. For them. I hung up. I had a plan. The first thing I did, I spent $500 I really didn't have. On LegalZoom. SJR Logistics Solutions, LLC. For my initials. Felt ridiculous. Felt powerful. For the next 2 weeks I lived a double life. By day I was the perfect managed-out employee. I showed up. I dutifully documented my transition. Kyle would email me. Hey, what's Mark's? Like, vibe? I would write down, 10:15 a.m. email from Kyle. Asked for vibe. He asked me, what's a bill of lading? I documented it. He asked me, is it bad if a truck is, like, late? I documented it. I forwarded every single email with timestamps to a new Gmail account. My evidence folder. By night I was the CEO of SJR Logistics. But I wasn't rebuilding the old dashboard. That was step 1. I was building step 10. I wasn't just a spreadsheet master anymore. I'd been teaching myself Python for a year. Just for fun. To be more marketable. I built a real web application. A clean, simple, beautiful dashboard. It didn't just pull from our system. It pulled from every public freight API. FedEx. Dozens of independent trucking data providers. It didn't just show where the truck was. It predicted traffic. It modeled weather delays. It showed exactly what Kessler needed. It was beautiful. This is the mundane interruption part. I was 2 days from finishing it. 2 a.m. My internet died. Just out. My whole building. I sat there in the dark. My screen was just error messages. I actually laughed. It was that or cry. I was so tired. I packed up my laptop. I drove to the 24-hour Starbucks on 5th Street. I built my entire company on a sticky table next to a college kid writing a paper on, I don't know, philosophy. I was fueled by $4 lattes and pure, uncut spite. I hit a wall. A huge bug. The data, it wasn't refreshing. It was static. It was useless. I was staring at the same line of code for 2 hours. I couldn't find the error. My eyes were burning. I was about to give up. Just close the laptop. Go home. Surrender. And the college kid, he looked over. You missed a semicolon, he said, pointing. On line 412. I looked. He was right. A tiny, stupid, missing semicolon. I fixed it. I hit run. The map exploded with data. Real time. Beautiful. Thanks, I said. My voice was hoarse. No problem, he said, putting his headphones back on. Good luck with your, whatever that is. I finished it at 5 a.m. The next day Frank called me in. He had a piece of paper. It's so proud. It was a formal performance improvement plan. The official pre-firing document. Sarah, he said, trying to look sad. Your focus just hasn't been there. You're failing to properly transition your accounts. Kyle tells me you've been unhelpful. I looked at the document. My failures were all there. Failed to respond to Kyle's request for client culture document. I didn't respond because that's not a real thing. Failed to proactively synergize new lead generation. I had no leads to synergize. Displayed a non-collaborative attitude during team huddles. I had been silent. Did not properly document client vibe for transition. This one was my favorite. This is perfect, I said. Frank blinked. What? This is perfect. Thank you, Frank. I'll try to do better. I took the document. I walked back to my desk. I emailed a copy to my lawyer. Her response was one word, checkmate. That's when I called Mark. Mark, I said. It's Sarah. You're right. Kyle's a disaster. And Frank is too. But I have a solution. What do you mean? He asked. I have my own company. I have my own new platform. It's what I always wanted to build for you. It's 100 times better than the old spreadsheet. Silence. Mark. Kyle is failing. I know he is. And I know Frank is covering for him. You have a formal review with them, right? Next Friday. Yeah, he said. 10 a.m. Kyle is. He's supposed to present his new solution. I think it's just a PowerPoint deck. I know, I said. Let him do his presentation. And then, let me do mine. Another long silence. I could hear him breathing. Sarah, he said. That's a huge risk. For me. For you. Frank he'll explode. I know, I said. I looked at my new LLC certificate, taped to my apartment wall. See you Friday. Friday. 10 a.m. I was in my studio apartment. I was wearing a black blazer and a white t-shirt. I had a cup of coffee. My heart was. I couldn't even feel it. I was just cold. I logged into the Zoom call. My camera was off. My name was just consultant. I saw them. Mark from Kessler. He looked bored. Frank. He looked smug. Kyle. He looked like he was about to be sick. He was physically sweating. And one other person. Mr. Henderson. Theo. Frank's boss. Kyle's godfather. Frank was playing his trump card. He brought the CO to, what? Intimidate Mark? To celebrate Kyle's big win? My blood went ice cold. This was it. Okay, Kyle, Mark said, his voice flat. Let's see it. Kyle. He shared his screen. It was a PowerPoint. A template. With spinning text. And clip art. I'm not kidding. Clip art. Of a truck. He started reading. His voice was high. He was just reading buzzwords. Synergy. Next generation. Logistics paradigm. Leveraging our core assets. A holistic 360-degree approach to shipping. It was painful. Mark cut him off. He didn't even wait for a pause. Kyle. Sup. Where is my shipment of ball bearings? Kyle blinked. He looked lost. It's in the synergy pipeline, Mr. Kessler. It's in the what? The pipeline. It's Frank. Kyle looked at his uncle. Frank unmuted. Mark, what Kyle means is, the shipment is, it's in transit. Our system is tracking it. Your system is a joke, Mark said. His voice was dangerous. Frank, you and I have a problem. Your team's transition has cost me, and I'm being very generous, $1.2 million in the last 3 weeks. My Wichita line has been down 40% of the time. My Oregon line is threatening a penalty. Frank went white. Now, Mark said. I was concerned. So I brought in an independent consultant to review the issue and propose a solution. Frank was nodding. Good. A consultant. We'd be happy to. Sarah. Mark said. Are you on? I turned on my camera. Good morning, Frank, I said. Mr. Henderson. Frank's jaw. It didn't drop. It unhinged. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. His face went from white to red to a weird splotchy purple. Mr. Henderson, he just stared. His eyes narrowed. He didn't look angry. He looked interested. He leaned forward. What is this? Frank sputtered. Sarah? What are you doing? This is a private call. You're in breach. You're fired. You can't fire me, Frank, I said. I shared my screen. It wasn't a PowerPoint. It was my dashboard. Live. Clean. Fast. I quit, I said. An hour ago. My resignation letter is in your inbox. And in Brenda's. And in Mr. Henderson's. Along with my performance improvement plan. And my complete documented file of Kyle's questions. Frank was speechless. Kyle made a small, squeaking sound. Mark, I said, to answer your question. Your ball bearings. Kyle sent them to Ohio. They were supposed to go to Oregon. What? Kyle and Frank said at the same time. They're currently stuck in a rail yard in Des Moines. But I've already rerouted them. I chartered a new truck. It will be at your Oregon facility in 12 hours. I clicked a button. Here, I said, are your other 4 lost shipments. They're here, and here. This one, I pointed, will be late. By 3 hours. Because of a snowstorm in Wyoming. Your line manager in Wichita has already been automatically notified. I looked back at the Zoom. Mark was smiling. He's smiling. Frank found his voice. She stole that. That's our data. That's Midwest property. This is theft. We are suing you. We are. Frank. Shut up. It was the CEO. Mr. Henderson. His voice was cold. So cold. Frank, the CEO said. Is it true you gave this girl's accounts? Kessler and Apex. To your nephew? I was synergizing the team. I was. Shut up. Henderson said. He looked at my screen. Then he looked at Kyle's clip art, still visible in the shared screen tab. He looked disgusted. This consultant. Sir, is this your platform? Yes, sir, I said. SJR Logistics Solutions, LLC. And the data? Did you access the Midwest system? No, sir, I said. I used public freight APIs. And Mark Kessler gave me access to his shipping manifests. As his new logistics provider. Frank just deflated. All the air went out of him. Mark, the CEO said. Is this true? Mark Kessler unmuted. He looked happy. It is. As of 9 a.m. this morning, Kessler Manufacturing has terminated its full contract with Midwest Logistics, citing breach of performance. He sipped his coffee. We've signed an exclusive one-year $1.5 million deal with SJR Logistics. To be honest, Mr. Henderson, she offered us a 30% cost savings. And her platform actually works. I had to turn off my camera. My hands were shaking. Finally, I had to put them in my lap. When I turned it back on, the CEO was the only one there. No, he was there. And Frank. And Kyle. They were just frozen. The CEO looked at me. Good presentation, SJR. Then he looked at Frank. Frank. Kyle. My office. Now. He clicked off. Frank didn't move. He just stared at his camera. At me. His face was, it was nothing. It was just empty. He clicked off. Kyle was last. He just looked at the screen. He was crying. He clicked off. It was just me. And Mark. Well, Mark said. That happened. So, about that Des Moines shipment, you sure it'll be 12 hours? I took a breath. I put my hands back on the keyboard. Yes, Mark. Let's get to work. I worked with Mark for the next hour. My hands, they didn't shake. Not once. We just worked. When we hung up, I checked my personal phone. 14 missed calls. All from Frank's office line. 2 panicked texts from Brenda in HR. Sarah, we urgently need to discuss your transition and the return of company property. Sarah, please call me. This is very serious. 1 voicemail. It was from Frank. It was a pocket dial. I heard him yelling. Not at me. At Kyle. You idiot. You absolute. You sent it to Ohio? How could you be so stupid? And then I heard Kyle, his voice was all high and whiny. But you told me, you said it didn't matter. You said she'd fix it. I laughed. I blocked Frank's number. I blocked Brenda's number. I made a new pot of coffee. But that was just the first domino. The fallout. I heard about it, of course. The logistics world is small. I heard about it from Jenny, my old teammate. She called me that afternoon. What did you do? She just yelled. I told her. She was silent. Frank, he's gone. What? He's gone. Henderson walked him out. They marched him to his desk. Made him pack his box. In front of everyone. It was brutal. She said he dropped his world's best boss mug. Tattered. All over the floor. And no one helped him pick it up. He just left the pieces. Frank was fired. Not let go. Not resigned to pursue other opportunities. Fired. For cause. Gross mismanagement of key accounts, and breach of fiduciary duty. The CEO wasn't angry because Frank was unethical. He was angry because Frank was stupid. He was angry because Frank had lost a $1.5 million a year client. Publicly. In front of him. And Kyle was reassigned. To the mailroom. In the basement. Of the Midwest warehouse. In Des Moines. I'm not kidding. The CO sent him to the exact place he'd lost the shipment. It was poetic. The next day Jenny called me again. Okay, she said. I quit. Are you hiring? I looked at my $1.5 million contract sitting on my printer. I looked at my tiny studio. Yeah, Jenny, I said. I think I am. I hired Jenny. I paid her full pay. More than Frank ever did. The contract. It was real. I had to hire a small accounting firm. They told me I needed to pay quarterly taxes. I didn't even know what that meant. I had to get an office. I leased a tiny 2-room office. It was above a pizza place. It smelled like garlic. All the time. It was the most beautiful place I'd ever seen. Those first 6 weeks. They were the hardest of my life. I'm not going to lie. I didn't sleep. I lived on coffee and spite and pizza from downstairs. I had to do payroll. My first payroll. For me and Jenny. I'd miscalculated. The check from Kessler hadn't cleared yet. The bank. They put a 10-day hold on it. Because it was so big. Payroll was due Friday. The money wouldn't be there until Monday. But I sold my car. My 2010 Honda. I sold it to CarMax. For $3,000. I made payroll. Jenny never knew. I told her I was taking the bus. For the environment. She rolled her eyes. Okay, Greta. The money cleared on Monday. But I bought a bus pass. It was terrifying. And I would do it again. In a heartbeat. It's a year later now. I'm in my office. It's bigger. We have 5 employees. Jenny is our suit. We're not above a pizza place anymore. We're on the 10th floor. We have a view. We got Apex Dynamics too. They called us 3 months after Frank was fired. They said, we heard a rumor. Is it true? It was. I see Frank sometimes. I heard he's consulting. Which I think means unemployed. I don't hate him. I don't think about him at all. I look at my dashboard. We have 14 clients now. I looked at my dashboard. All shipments green. All on time. I took a sip of my coffee. It's quiet. It was a long, hard, quiet victory. And it was all mine.